When you feel the moment, only for the moment. When nothing seems to be working out, and everything that you're working for, that's not working now, don't tap out. Tap in. It hurts, I get it. It hurts to persevere, to fight through. It hurts when you're in that chokehold of the mind. Your face is turning all kind of colors that you didn't even know you had on your facial color palette. Help, water, I can't breathe. Oh my goodness. Don't tap out. Tap in. Now, there are times I understand. It's too much. It's just too much. You know, you want to avoid further injury. And I'm talking about not just in the tangible. Some of you all are wrestlers. I understand. Some moves, yeah, to try to avoid further injury, you got to tap out. So to be able to eventually tap back in another day when you've been trained more thoroughly, when you've worked harder, when you've persevered better. I get that. Tap out just to be able to tap back in another day, or live to fight another day. Yes. Live to fight another day. So sometimes tapping out is necessary. Yes. Because when you tap out, what you're really saying is that you're depleted, man. Yeah. You know, you're in a particular, move. The mind has trapped you in a particular mode of thinking that you can't escape. And so you tap out. You tap out of the positive onslaught that can actually come and override that mind grip that you just cannot escape from. That is literally suffocating you, choking you. When you tap out, yes, you're giving up. And sometimes giving up is necessary. Sometimes giving up is necessary for the grand scheme of, let me tap out now so that I can prayerfully come back with greater vigor, with greater knowledge, When you just tap out just to tap out and say, this is not for me, okay, hey, if that's it, that's it. But if you're saying because you see it, remember what I said, when you see it, you believe it, and you start to do it because you think it, then there should not be any tapping out. If you've seen yourself making it to the next level, to the next phase of your prowess as an athlete, okay? Whatever that next phase may be. Some of you all, it may not be playing. I get so tired when I hear, people saying, will you make it to that next phase and enter into that next dimension of an athlete? No, that may not be enough. They may want to get into coaching. They may want to get into training athletes. I don't know, but it's the next dimension nonetheless. And you have saw yourself doing this. You have thought and think to yourself, this is what you will do and want to do. And now you are doing it because you believe it. Yes, you don't tap out. You may tap out temporarily, for as the old saying goes, and when I used to do a lot of my wellness runs, when you get tired, rest, but don't you quit. Don't you tap out. When you get tired, okay, rest, or hold the line of thinking. That's a military term. Hold the line of thinking, but don't you retreat. Don't you tap out. Don't you give in. Don't you give up. Hear these words, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, because as I speak them to you, as I always say, I speak them to myself first. It's like I'm out there in the audience with you all because I am the audience. That may sound crazy, I know, but I literally am the audience when I am blessed and fortunate to deliver a message. I'm the audience. I'm both the deliverer and the receiver. Oh my goodness. And that's why when I talk, I sometimes get besides myself because I'm like, man, this is something that is being said that I'm hearing. I'm both the deliverer and the receiver. Hear these words, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. Even when you get depleted, just like when you're relieved of duty in the military or military training, sometimes you're relieved of duty, because you've tapped out, okay, and therefore you've been released. From whatever that obligation was, because you're exhausted, you're tired, you're drained of energy. Those things are necessary human qualities and traits we all have. But how will you overcome, those exhaustions, those levels of fatigue, being drained mentally, physically, competitively? Don't tap out when things don't seem to be working. Don't tap out when things or nothing is working out. Because there's a time when nothing is working out. It just seems like nothing is working out. I've been there. And I may be there even now. You all just don't know it. When nothing seems to be working out. You see, just because I don't compete like that, of course, there's still things that I'm still competing in that may have nothing to do with getting on the court, on a field, on a course. But it's a course, definitely, in the unseen, course of action in life, what I, have set forth, thought to do, seen myself doing, and am now trying to do because I believe it to do, that I get off course, off track. So when nothing seems to be working out, and in everything you're working for, and nothing seems to be working out now, don't tap out. For as I say again, the champion is not made in the ring, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. They're seen in the ring. Which one are you? Which one will be you? Will you tap in? Because when you tap into anything, it's sometimes a light strike of thinking that gradually turns into a monster of believing. Lord have mercy. Yes. 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 There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place to tap out. There's a time and place to tap in. But whatever you do, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, you still see it. You still think it. And then you do it as you believe it. And before we bring this particular aspect of your early AM training event to a close, so you all don't think I'm just talking out the side of my neck, trying to sound cliche-ish with no true meaning to it, I'm going to leave you all with an acronym that I've used in my life for years, not only when I played, not only when I coached, but even now in this course of action I am currently in, with life and in life. And you all can truly absorb this, because this is a practice that I still practice, because as we've already spoken and talked, and as it has been delivered, we can control the way we think. We can control the actions of what we think. I didn't say this is easy, but if we are dogged and determined, we can control the outcomes of our mind, of our thought processes. And if I can take an excerpt from the good book, as a man, or as a person thinketh, so is he, so are they. Please take that to heart, because that is a living, powerful truth that is for every last vessel that has ever lived, will live, and currently is living. The way we think many a times produces the outcome thereof. So this is something I've used for years again, and I always like to use acronyms that help me because I'm able to retain them better. But this is my acronym of RINN, R-I-N-N. RINN, R-I-N-N. This is what I use for my own life. And again, when I played even. And pretty much the acronym of that is remember, invoke, necessitate, and negate. Let me say that again. RINN, R-I-N-N. This is what I use in my own life. And what that acronym stands for: remember, invoke, necessitate, negate. Now, let's kind of go through each one briefly before we bring this whole stabbing session to a close. Remember, as we spoke again earlier, sometimes we just live for the moment because of the moment, okay? But if you can just remember long term how you felt after a would-be failure, how you felt after a would-be victory, how you felt after a weak moment, a strong moment, you need to bring that to the forefront. Remember how you felt. Remember what it did for you. Remember what effects you were able to derive from that particular thing. Remember, bring it back to mind, whether it was a positive or a negative, and build off of that. Do not be murdered or do not be actually weighed down by that. So remember, that's that's the first. And you know, whenever you recall anything that you may have experienced, it can do one of two things. It can either push you, or it can pull you. It can push you forward, or it can pull you back. It's one or the other. Okay. So that's, again, remember. All right. Invoke. This is one of my favorite ones from again, what I've practiced over the years. When you invoke something, you know, you're pretty much bringing something in action or whatever to the forefront. And I'll say again, is to bring something into action, to call something into action. If you remember how you felt after the remembering of that particular thing, now you need to invoke that particular thing. For some people, that may come in the form of prayer for inspiration. Okay, you're invoking a higher power. Okay, a deity that can inspire you, thus bringing about an action to encourage you, to strengthen you, to take place. You invoke, you bring into an action, you know, the very thing that you said you remembered you did not do, as training was required, practice was required, but now you're remembering from that very feeling, you know, that you will now invoke a new practice. Okay, you will bring in a new course of action. All right. The third portion of my acronym RIN is N, which is necessitate. Okay, necessitate. So we have remember, we have invoke, and we have necessitate. Okay, when you necessitate anything, all right, you're making something known. You're making it a necessary result, or consequence or outcome. Okay, when you necessitate something, you know that it needs to not only be made a constant, but it is made necessary in your life. Okay, or in whatever path that you are necessitating, making necessary. All right, it's almost like a demand. Okay, you're being forced or compelled to do something, so therefore you necessitate that something. Okay, and then the last portion of my acronym RIN, R-I-N-N, is negate. Now, this is the part that is really hard for the mind, because remember, the mind can act as a camouflage. It can camouflage things that we think are good for us, when in actuality they're bad or terrible for us. They even bring death to us, meaning our way of thinking is negate. So we have remember, we have invoke, we have necessitate, and then we have negate. This is one of the harder ones, and I'll tell you why. Because when you negate something, you're literally trying to nullify something. Okay, you're trying to make something that has been effective in your way of thinking, or in your life, or in your doing, okay, in your beliefs. Now you're trying to make that ineffective because maybe it's been a negative. Okay, you didn't do well last year. You didn't do well the game before, you know, in the last game or in the last tournament. So now you have to learn how to negate that, to make it invalid to a certain extent. Now you still can use it to fuel you, but what I'm saying is, if you do not have a balance, it will weigh you down. So you have to figure out a way to negate, to undo, to reverse that sphere of thinking, okay, or sphere of action that took place. Okay, because it's gone, it's done. So now you have to negate it. Again, I'm not telling you to totally forget it, all right? But you do have to learn how to negate it. Okay, retract that particular thought that has just riddled and plagued your mind, you know. And when you negate certain things, you then start to avoid certain things. Okay, I messed up. Okay, I missed this opportunity. I missed that. I didn't perform well in that, you know. But now I'm learning to negate that. This thought, even some words that my own comrades may have spoken to me. Man, you suck. Man, girl, you messed that up for us, you know. And that hurts. But you have to learn how to negate, to nullify, to make those particular actions ineffective. I didn't say totally forget again, but to make them effective, ineffective, to void them out, you know. Because if you don't, they will continue to override you and overrule you with your thought processes as well as your actions. So negate. That's Coach Kai's acronym, RIN, R-I-N-N. Remember? Remember how it felt. You know, invoke, you know, put it into practice. Bring it to the forefront. Put it in action, you know. Necessitate, make it necessary. You know, it must be necessary. Thus meaning it must be an avid part of your routine, your thought processes. Okay, and then negate. Learn how to undo. Learn how to reverse, so that you can catapult yourself, your mind, your thinking, your beliefs, your actions, your doings to a new dimension you've not experienced before. Huh. Wow. You know, even though this is something I've lived by, not always excelled in my RIN principles or RIN process. But even when I share it with you all, again, I'm also in the audience. I'm not only delivering, but I'm also receiving, and I'm challenged even again by my own principles that I have to adhere to myself. Make sure you remember, you invoke, you necessitate, and you negate. Now you find what works out for you, what works best for you, whatever methods, hopefully healthy methods, you're able to attain in order to make this a successful habit in your life. I don't care what arena you're in, corporate arena, whether you're in the athletic arena, whether you're in the management arena, coaching arena, professional arena, it doesn't matter. Okay. This is a practice that can always be put into practice using various methods and methodologies that work for you, okay? That work for you. I want to thank the coaches again. I want to thank you all for allowing me. I always like to say this wherever I'm, blessed and fortunate to speak. I want to thank you, you young warriors, you young student athletes, you young grinders. I want to thank you all for allowing me, Coach Kai, to invade your space. Thank you, coaches. And look, I want to get out here and work with y'all if y'all let me in, okay? All right. Thank you all again for Wandering Kings.
Not all who wander are lost.